I'm Ron Rogers, and I just got one thing to share. When I was a kid, my brother and I, we lived way out in the country, and we never saw people very often. So we would stand by the mailbox and wait for the mailman to deliver the mail every morning when we were off in the summer. And he always came, his name was Mr. Norman, and he always came at exactly 10 o'clock, and you could set your clock, you could set your watch to it every day, 10 o'clock.
Wow.
So that was a big thing for us. Now, we didn't do it in the winter if we were off for a blizzard or something, but, So that's just something crazy.
So you just, your time with Mr. Norman instead of Mr. Rogers, you'd hang out with Mr. Norman.
Mr. Norman, our postman. He
That's
was a great
cool.
guy. Great guy.
We lived out in the country too, Ron, so I didn't know that about you.
Yep.
So.
I'm a country boy. When I'm not filming these, I have my Carhartts on. Or my bib overalls.
We ought to tape one of us in our, like, you in your bib overalls and me in my sweatshirt and jeans, that's who we really are. So
we could do that. I don't know that anybody would ever watch it, but we could do it.
Hi everyone, Barb Gentili Green here. And let's see. Well, in a future episode, we're going to tell you a little bit more, but I just started a new job, just finished 1 month on the job at Centerburg Local Schools. And so just been having a lot of fun, meeting new people and learning the system. And we'll have a session on that here coming up. So,
Barb, talking about, what you just said and stuff, I think you'd mentioned something about looking for a fire escape. What was that fire escape thing? Is that you're looking for a way out of the building, or is that something we can talk about?
Well, I think we will talk about fire escapes, Ron.
All
today.
Right.
I did. That's one of the first things I had to learn, though, in my new job is where I exited in case there was a fire. But we're going to turn that concept on its head a little bit today. And we're going to talk about the difference between scaffolding and a fire escape.
Okay, so it wasn't the fire escape thing that you're trying to get out of the building. Okay, man, that's good, because that is a new job. I hate to see you looking for the escape hatch already.
Oh, no, not yet. No, it's going well. So, this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. And so in my position, I'm looking at students' IEPs a lot and helping teachers write IEPs. And I'm thinking about what are we as adults doing to create independent expert learners. I'm always thinking through that UDL lens. And so I'm always thinking about, are we really creating enough opportunities for kids to become self-sufficient and to become knowledgeable about what works for them, and as opposed to the adults doing all the work. So for those who have seen our webinar, one of our first webinars, I put that visual in our webinar. So we're going to talk a little bit about scaffolding. So Ron, when you think of scaffolding, what do you visualize?
Oh man, when I think of scaffolding, I truly think of those guys that are working along the side of a building and they put up that stuff with the boards on it and things like that, because that's what I think of true scaffolding. That's, even though,
and So when they put that up there, what are they doing while they're, why did they erect that scaffolding?
Well, they got a job to do. So a lot of times it's painting or cleaning windows or something that they're making something better.
Yeah,
improving.
They are. They're improving. And what happens when they're done with that improvement that they were setting out to do?
Well, they take the scaffolding and load it back up in the truck and leave.
That's right. So that is a visual that has helped me think about, are we scaffolding for kids? Or are we providing this fixed fire escape that's always there, like we're always right there, ready to catch them if anything is to fail? And so I was doing a little work on the IRIS website. It'll be one of the resources that we put in our show notes there. But it had a real nice chapter on scaffolding. And I hadn't thought about scaffolding in this way, but it's talking about the three kind of things you can scaffold. So you can scaffold content, you can scaffold the task, or you can scaffold the materials. And I liked that way that they put those kind of big, broad areas over. And so here's the link to UDL. when they were talking about scaffolding content, they were talking about, are we providing content that is unfamiliar, uninteresting, or too difficult for kids? And so that might be the first lens that we need to look at when we're designing our instruction using UDL. And I'll show, I picked out some checkpoints in a little bit that I'll talk to you about. So, I mean, can you imagine, Ron, there's kids sitting listening to content that they have no background knowledge for, or they think they're not interested in it because they've never heard of it before. So can you imagine that? Like how we could just change things by scaffolding that content a little bit to make them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and the what caught my ear from what you were saying was, all I could think of was on the one of those is, with universal design for learning, that engagement.
Yep. Exactly.
Engagement. And then, and then I was moving towards the other words that you were saying.
Yes. Well, and that is, one of the, or a couple of the checkpoints under engagement is how we vary the demands for kids, and give them that feedback. And that's another part of scaffolding is like when we think about scaffolding a task and how we model that for them and how we think aloud and share our thinking to help kids think about that. Because sometimes when kids struggle with getting through a task, they don't even know how to break it down. They don't even know how to think about that task. So as we scaffold as the adult, we can actually be thinking out loud and talking about, well, when I approach this writing task, the first thing I have to think about is what is my big idea that I'm going to start with? And then I have to think about, what are some important things about that big topic? And so that modeling and that feedback that we give to kids as they're then practicing it is a way to, scaffold that task. And then the last area is to scaffold the materials. And I've seen some just really amazing teachers who can find ways to break a worksheet down and make it a little more engaging, or to provide a little guided example over off on the side so that a student has something to look at to reference, okay, this is what I'm trying to do and this is what it might look like if I were to do it correctly. And so some might have little written prompts, little cue sheets on an assignment. Remember first, pick out the main topic and don't forget your details. Just those little visual cues. And so I under the action and expression checkpoints, there's this one that talks about building fluencies and graduated levels of support. And so that's what struck me when they were talking about some examples about how we could scaffold the materials. So, and does that make sense, Ron, like why the word scaffolding is there? Because you think about that project or that improvement that you were talking about on the building, but we could think that very same way, right? With scaffolding for learning, is that as the kids get it, here's the important part, that we take it away. Yep. Like we're seeing where they are and we're taking it away. Have you ever seen examples of when we have left support in for too long for students?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll tell you what comes to mind real quick is math. We start out with the times table. It's there as a scaffold, and it's on paper maybe, or however it's presented. And then, what, after a while we have it memorized. Well, I never have, but I tried. I still cheat and have it. But at some point it should be taken away probably and not needed because it slows you down.
Right.
It slows you down.
And it's sort of like the navigator in your car. Like sometimes I put that navigation on when I know how to get there, and I'm just being silly. I'm just like, oh, I'll just let her tell me how to do it today. When really I could just do it on my own and be proud of that, right? But I think, how I'm always passionate about our students with disabilities, but I think about accommodations that have ended up on their IEP, like you just gave an example of a multiplication chart. Well, maybe they mastered their multiplication 1 through 5. Maybe we need to take that part of the multiplication table off and maybe allow them to use it for 5 through 9. But sometimes we see the very same supports that we put in place in kindergarten still on IEPs when kids are in high school. And so I think Universal Design for Learning has us think about that. Like, how can we have a very clear goal, provide some scaffolding, but release it very carefully as we monitor students' progress and they monitor their progress. So we don't want fire escapes, right? We want scaffolds.
We do. And we've got about a minute and a half left. And, oh, there was something important I wanted to say, and now I can't remember it.
Well, you know, I think you're going to put the picture right here that I put for the scaffolding versus the fire escape.
Yeah, we'll put it right there.
Right there.
I'll break it up and put it right between us.
Okay, so maybe that'll be a little visual reminder for folks to always be thinking about how can we remove those scaffolds so that kids can become independent expert learners.
And you know what? I'm just going to throw this out here, and everybody else can think about it, Barb, but this is for you to think about. Can we scaffold the environment? You didn't mention that as the fourth one. You know, and can we scaffold the environment? I'm wondering.
I absolutely think we can. You're always such a great one to bring in the environment, but I absolutely think we can. And sometimes we take care of it, right? We tell kids, well, we're going to maybe lessen the lights, or we're going to put some soft music in the background, as opposed to them saying, you know what, I really need to go sit over underneath that desk and work in a quiet place where it's a little bit darker, or yeah, but no, that's great, Ron. I definitely think we could scaffold the environment.
Cool. Okay, Ron's out.
Barb's out. See you next time on 10 Minutes with Barb and Ron.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Yes, please.
YouTube, please subscribe. Like, comment, and share.